Working late in your study, you are startled by a menacing shadow moving across the wall before you. You turn sharply, and in front of you looms a hulking figure of a man standing nearly 8 feet tall. He is dressed in a leather highwayman's jacket that stretches down to the boots. His skin is a mottled blue and white color, and his face, arms, and hands are covered with grievous scars. As you race toward the door of your study, the creature speaks in a guttural voice, saying,
"Since my promise of riches has failed to persuade you, I have had to take drastic measures. Your family has been taken to an undisclosed location in Paris and is safe for the moment. If you want to see them again, you will give me what I ask. Create for me an equal, a companion that shares my afflictions, or your loved ones will meet a most gruesome end. If you fail in this task, or if any harm comes to me, you shall never see your beloved family again."
Afterward, the hulking man turned and slipped through the door into the moonless night. With no option other than to comply with the creature's wishes, you assemble a laboratory and hire several assistants to aid you in your bloody quest. But soon after, word reaches you of a mysterious sea captain named Walton. It has been said that Walton has been hunting the creature for years, and his arrival in Paris cannot be a coincidence. Although you possess no ill will toward the captain, you cannot allow him to harm the creature, at least not until your family is safe. However, Walton's operatives have also heard of you and your association with the creature. They are unquestionably seeking your whereabouts and those of your assistants. The captain has likely discerned the reason behind the creature's connection to you, and what he has asked you to do, and he will undoubtedly send his underlings to curtail your efforts. You cannot allow him to stop you.
Hello everyone, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club and welcome to my channel. Tonight I'll be playing Abomination, Heir of Frankenstein. Out of the box, the game is designed for 2 to 4 players, but the good people at Plaid Hat Games have designed a solo variant for the game, and it's a good one. You can obtain a free download of the variant at plaidhatgames.com. In the solo variant, we would set up the game just as we would for a 2-player game, but with the following changes. Captain Walton will function as he does in the standard game, but he begins the game with 1 investigator token at the morgue. As the game progresses, additional investigators will appear on the board, specifically on turns 3, 6, and 9. These investigators will move around the map, blocking the player from visiting locations on the map, and if they move into a location occupied by a friendly meeple, they will attempt to interrogate the individual and try to gain vital knowledge of the creature's whereabouts, in turn advancing the Walton meeple on the turn track. If this happens, the player may attempt to mitigate this by attempting to evade, bribe, or kill the investigator. We'll be using the scientist meeples in the purple color to represent Walton's investigators. The player can use any character except Baptiste, the psychopath. We're going to be playing with Anita Bessini. Anita's special abilities will be at the start of each round. She's going to gain 1 franc if she has 2 or less. And also, research cards that earn expertise will earn an extra expertise when played. In the solo variant, we're going to be removing the countermeasures card from the research deck, along with the event deck being composed only of 12 random event cards. No encounter cards are used as a part of this variant. We're also going to be removing all Aid Captain Walton cards from the Humanity deck. Our bonus objectives will be limited to 1st to 27 on the Expertise dial, 1st to 23 on the Reputation dial, and 1st to 10 on the Humanity dial. The Bribe and Bump track is not used during the variant. Meeples may not be placed in the first player location. And during this solo variant, we will always be the first player. In the solo version of the game, each police marker will cost us 4 francs to remove. In the standard game, you pay 3 francs to remove all police markers, but in this variant, we have to pay 4 francs for each police marker. We're prohibited from placing our meeples on a space occupied by an investigator, and meeples cannot be bumped in this variant. Regarding the Humanity cards, we're going to ignore the conditional text on the cards that target another player or the creature. And these cards can be used to ignore the effects of an investigate action, so that will be the replacement ability of those kind of cards. The investigate actions will be carried out following the placement of each meeple. And we'll demonstrate the investigate action when the time comes. That will be when the Captain Walton's meeples will be moving on the board. If they happen to land on a space where we have one of our meeples, then we will go through that investigate action. And we're ready to begin the game. Anita Bassini has that special ability at the start of each round, gain 1 franc if you have 2 or less. Well, she currently has 2, as we have set up for a 2-player game, so that's going to gain her 1 franc. The object of this solo version is going to be for us to complete our monster and bring it to life before the Captain Meeple reaches the last space on the story track. And our secondary condition will be to try to score, of course, as many victory points as possible. One of the most important mechanics in the game are managing these 3 dials that we have for our player character: the Humanity track, Reputation track, and Expertise track. To some extent, all of these dials are interrelated to each other. As an example, in the Humanity track, when we start gaining positive values on the track, we're going to also gain additions to our Reputation track. And in turn, the Reputation track, as that increases, will be gaining extra meeples and then extra victory points, and eventually being able to turn those assistants into scientist meeples, which are more powerful. And on the Expertise track, we'll be gaining victory points and eventually the ability to turn gray dice into the more powerful blue dice. Our round order is going to begin with an event phase where we'll be drawing and resolving a card from the event deck, followed by our city phase where we're going to be placing our meeples in Paris, and then those will be interspersed with the investigator actions after each placement of a meeple. That'll be followed by our lab phase where we're going to be able to build our monster parts and throw the switch and preserve materials. And then we'll finish that up with a reset phase where our components will decompose, we'll be refreshing the game board, and the meeples will be returned to our character card. And then we'll be advancing the captain 1 space along the storyboard. So we'll begin by drawing an event card. Now these event cards are double-sided. The first side has the use between rounds 1 and 6, and on the opposite side it covers rounds 7 till the conclusion of the game. Our first event is Leopold the Vast, and it reads, "A nobleman of considerable girth is scheduled to be executed by guillotine at the Plaid Hat Hotel de Ville." And that reads, place Leopold the Vast's cadaver card at the public square. No other cadavers may be placed there, and this event cannot be avoided. The cost to claim this body is 1 extra franc, as shown on the card. Read entry C1 to the first player. Now you'll notice on the card that it has that execution symbol. Normally we would place 2 cadavers at the public square location, but this is a special event with Leopold the Vast. We place the Leopold the Vast card at the public square, and then we're going to read condition C1. C1 reads, the creature falls into step with you as you walk down the hall to your lab, then places a firm hand on your shoulder to halt your progress.
There will be an execution today,
It begins casually.
and the man whose life they seek to end is not worthy of the honor you may be tempted to bestow upon him. Let the crows pick over his body. I want no part of him in this business. Am I clear?
If you agree not to claim Leopold's body, go to entry A31. Otherwise, go to entry B31. Well, we have to remember in this game, the creature has captured our relatives. He's coercing us to build him a companion. And if we don't follow his wishes, there could be some consequences. So our 2 choices are to either fulfill his wishes or fulfill our own. So I think in this case, we are going to agree that we are not going to claim Leopold's body. So we're going to read A31. And note A31 is public square is off limits to you this round. Gain 2 francs. Okay, that's great. So we're going to place a marker at the public square, which will remind us that we cannot use that location this round. And we're going to gain ourselves 2 francs. That'll give us a total of 5. So that was a decent event for us to start the game. Now we won't have access to Leopold the Vast, which would give us quite a bit of materials, but we're trying to placate the creature from harming our relatives. So we want to try to play along with this thing as much as we can. And now we'll move on to the city phase, and we're going to take turns placing our meeples and having the investigators move on the board. We begin the game with 3 meeples, 1 scientist meeple, and 2 assistants. Now on the board you'll notice that some locations have only the scientist outline. Others have the scientist or the assistant. Scientists will generally be able to go to locations that will garner them additional benefits. Like in this case, we have advanced research or research. Well, we can use a scientist there, which is going to gain us not only a card, but also a expertise. Whereas the assistant, if he was placed, say, in this research area, would only be able to garner a card for us. Now, we have to be mindful that these purple tokens, which are the investigators for the captain, are going to be moving on the board, and those will be controlled by dice rolls, and depending upon how many successes they have, that'll be the number of spaces that they will move along the map. That movement is going to be utilizing what we call a search path, and the location order will be from the morgue to the slaughterhouse, to the academy, to the dark alley, to the docks, to the market, to Saint Roch, to the cemetery, to the public square, to the hospital, and back to the morgue. Now these cards that are available on the board, in the case of at the academy, those are research cards. And many of those will offer us 2 different choices that we can use during the game. The top half of the card is the standard use of the card. That will be the research aspect of the card. And that would, like in this case, for tutor, would allow us to gain 2 reputation and 3 francs. But if we choose not to play the card for that action, we can use the bottom portion, which often allows us either rerolls or certain dice manipulation benefits. And those are often very powerful. Another aspect of these cards is we're limited to holding a total of 3 cards. If we gain any additional cards, we need to immediately discard them on a 1-to-1 basis, anything above 3-card hand limit. And I think to begin, we're going to place our scientist meeple at the advanced research area of the Academy. It's going to give us an increase in our expertise and allow us to draw one of the 2 cards. So we're going to gain, I think, this tutor card, which will allow us to play at any time to gain the benefit, which is going to be an increase in 2-point increase in our reputation and 3 francs. So we'll be able to increase our reputation by 1 up to 2. And then we can keep this card and play it at any time we wish. I think for the time being, I'm going to keep that in reserve. And when we're at the Academy and we take a card, we automatically replace that, we replenish that with a new card. After each meeple is placed and the action's resolved, we're going to do an investigate action, and what will happen there is we're going to roll 2 gray dice, and then we will choose an investigator on the board to affect, and then for each damage symbol rolled, we're going to move that investigator 1 space along that search path that I had detailed before. Now the possible results on these gray dice are going to be an alive symbol, which is a success, a double damage, 2 single damage, a loss of humanity, or a blank. Now during the investigator movement, we're only concerned with these damage symbols. These blue dice, there's 2 blue dice included in the game, and those have an equal distribution of alive, single damage, or blank results. So we're going to be rolling 2 gray dice, and that will be moving the investigator pawn starting at the morgue, and he'll be moving through that search path according to the number of damage results that we get on the dice. And that is a very interesting mechanic in the game for the solitaire version. And I think that really propels this game into a very, very good solitaire game. You'll find out that while we're playing through this, these investigators get to be a very big element in the game, especially when more of them will appear on the board. And we're constantly having to make choices between the risk of being discovered by these investigators and accomplishing what we need to do. So it's a very, very good mechanic. All right, we're going to roll the dice and see where the investigator will move if he does at all. He rolled 2 blanks, so the investigator will remain at the morgue. Now, in order for us to actually start assembling our creature, we need to have a certain minimum expertise level. I'll bring up the Start a Monster part card, and you'll notice on there that based on the body part, we have a minimum required amount of expertise in order to begin building that creature, that portion of the creature. In this case, the minimum required expertise is 3, and that would allow us to start an arm. So we need to move our expertise up if we're going to be able to start assembling our creature. We also need component materials, but at the minimum we need to get our expertise up. So I think for our next action we're going to use one of our assistants, and we're going to go to the docks and we're going to hire some people to help us. Now when placing at the docks, that allows us to draw a card of the 3 that are available. Now we have 2 cutthroats and a dog catcher. Now what we're trying to do is to increase our expertise. So I think the best thing that we can do is probably select one of those that's going to give us the best amount of expertise. The dog catcher is interesting. He would cost us 1 franc. We can hire him for a franc, and then we can choose any of these 3 possible actions. We could either gain 2 expertise, losing a humanity. We could gain 3 humanity, or we can gain the materials that are listed at the bottom of the card. So in this case, I'm going to pay the 1 franc to the dog catcher, and we're going to use him to gain 2 expertise at the cost of 1 humanity. So our humanity dial will move to -1, but our expertise value will move up by 2, and that'll increase us up to 3 now. So right now we have enough expertise in order to attempt to build an arm, which is a good start at least. And that scoundrel that we used is discarded, and we're going to place a fresh one up here, and we have another dog catcher. And now we're going to make our investigator roll. And this time he has rolled a total of 2 damage, so that investigator will move 2 spaces on the board. So he'll move through the slaughterhouse and then into the academy, and he is going to meet up with us. So we have a choice to make now. Our 3 options would be to attempt evasion, where we can roll 2 blue dice, and if we're able to get 1 or more eye symbols, we'd be able to evade the investigator. However, if we fail to roll an eye, we have to go to the investigation section below, which means that the captain is going to gather information about the whereabouts of the creature, and he's going to move up the story track, and that is going to directly affect us, as that is controlling how much time we have to build our creature. So we want to try to avoid that if possible. Our other option is, if our meeple is a scientist, which in this case it is, we can murder that investigator if we have less than 2 police markers. Now if we murder him, we are going to gain the actions that we would normally get in the dark alley, which would be a acquiring of materials, but that comes at a cost where we're going to gain a police marker, and if we get 2 police markers, we're no longer able to use that action anymore at the dark alley. Last action is to bribe the investigator, and we would pay him a number of francs equal to the current bribe level. Now the current bribe level is 1 franc. After all of these are filled, we remove those, and then we are going to place a franc above that table, and then that's going to increase the cost by an additional franc to bribe them in the future. So I think since we're flush with cash, we're going to use that opportunity to bribe that investigator, and we're going to place 1 franc on the board. Like I said, when this gets filled up, those will be removed. We'll place a reminder franc at the top of that board, and then it's going to be costing us 2 francs every time we choose to bribe them in the future. And I think for our last meeple, we're going to place that, we're going to utilize our laboratory, and I think we're going to practice. So we'll place that on the practice area of our laboratory, and that's going to gain us 1 expertise. So we'll be able to increase our expertise up to 4. And now the investigator will move. And he rolled 2 eyes, so there'll be no movement of the investigator. We've placed all of our meeples, so that's going to bring the city phase to conclusion. Move on to the lab phase, and that's where we're able to build our monster parts, attempt to animate them by throwing a switch, and preserving materials. We're not able to build a monster part, we have no materials yet. So we have no ability to preserve any of the materials because we have none. So we'll move on now to the reset phase. Now during the reset phase, any materials that we have in our storage would be decomposing, and they'll slide down the track, becoming less and less useful to us. Next step will be to refresh the game board. All of the cards that are currently exposed on the board are going to be discarded, and we're going to replace those with fresh cards. Those will happen at the hospital, the docks, the academy, and at St. Roche. Any cards at the public square are not replaced until we get that guillotine symbol on the event card. It's the only time that those cards will be placed out on the board. So we've replenished all the cards on the board. Next step is our meeples will return back to our laboratory. And lastly, the captain is going to advance on the story track. He's up to number 2. If the story track gets to the last position and we have not built our creature, we're going to lose the game. We're ready to begin another turn, and we'll begin with our events phase. We'll draw an event card. The event is revealed to be hospital corruption. A particularly unscrupulous hospital attendant has made the already morally repugnant practice of acquiring corpses slightly less dangerous for one's good name. Sadly, dangers to the pocketbook abound. When placing at the hospital to retrieve a cadaver, players may pay 1 franc to draw 1 cadaver card beyond what their reputation normally allows. And since this event card has to deal with the hospital, we'll place that near there so that we can be reminded of that current condition. Now we'll move on to our city phase, and I think we'll begin by placing our scientist meeple on the volunteer space. It's going to allow us to gain a humanity and 2 reputation. Our humanity will go back to 0, and our reputation will increase by 2. It'll be up to 4. Once we can get our reputation up to 7, we'll be gaining an extra assistant meeple. And now we'll make the roll for the investigator. He has a total of 2 damage, so he'll be moving 2 spaces. He'll move from advanced research to the lecture space. We'll place him there. Now I'd like to get some extra meeples that we're able to place on the board per turn, so we're going to try to move up our reputation. So I think our next placement is going to be at the academy, and we're going to place it on this research area, which will allow us to draw a card. And I think we're going to take this publish card. It says during your turn, lose 1 scientist from your character card for this round to gain this benefit. It's going to give us 2 expertise, 3 reputation, and a franc. So I think we'll take that card. That's a good one. That's our second card. Now we get to replenish that for the academy. The new card is Galvanism Demonstration. And I think we're going to play this card that we have, the tutor card. It says play at any time to gain this benefit. That's going to give us 2 reputation and 3 francs. So we'll increase our reputation by 2. That'll move us up to 6. And then we're going to also gain 3 francs, which we will place in our treasury. And now the investigators will move. You have a movement of 1. So the investigator is going to move into the donate area at the academy. And I think for our last meeple, we're going to use the lecture area. Now we're using an assistant, so we gain the lesser of the 2. It's going to give us a franc and an increase to our reputation. So our reputation is going to be increased by 1. We're up to 7 now, and that's going to give us an award of an extra assistant, and we can use that immediately. So we're going to gain an extra assistant that we can place on our card, and in addition we gained an extra franc. And now the investigators will move. And they have a total of 1 movement point. He's going to move to the dark alley. I think for our last meeple, we're going to place him at the market. Now while we're at the market, we can do any or all of the available actions there. We have plenty of money, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase 3 Leyden jars. That'll cost us a total of 6 francs. So we'll pay 6 francs. And we'll be able to purchase 3 Leyden jars. Now these Leyden jars will come uncharged, so we're going to have to charge those when we want to use them, and those are directly used in trying to bring life to our creation eventually. So we're going to place those in our laboratory. So we'll place those Leyden jars in the designated area in the laboratory, and once we charge those, we'll be able to use those to animate our creature, possibly. And now we'll move the investigator. He has one damage marker, so he'll be moving one space on the board. It's going to move him to the docks. And that's going to complete the city phase. We'd move on to the lab phase, but we have no work available to be done there. So we will continue on with our reset phase. We're going to refresh the board and our meeples will return. Our board is refreshed. Now all we have left is to move the captain. Captain is going to advance to turn 3, and that's going to place another investigator out on the map, and he'll start at the morgue. And we'll place that investigator at the morgue, and now we're going to have to deal with 2 of those moving each round. Now we'll be starting round 3, and we'll be drawing another event card. And the event is Student Riots. Students from the University of Paris have taken to the streets in protest, incensed by the political dismissal of a popular professor. The gendarmes are out in force, making nighttime activities more risky. The dark alley and the docks are off limits, and we're also going to have an execution. Now, as we're playing as though this were a 2-player game, 1 card is going to be issued at the public square. So we'll place 1 card out at the public square, and then we're going to be placing closure markers on those other 2 locations. So the docks and the dark alley are unavailable. Anita's special ability is that at the start of each round, she gains 1 franc if she has 2 or less. So we're going to give her a franc, give her 2. And I think we're going to take advantage of the public square being open. So we're going to place one of our assistants there. It's going to cost us 1 franc, and we're able to draw 1 card from there. So we're going to take that card, and then we can utilize it for either the either portion of that, which means that we can either take an increase of 2 in expertise, or we can take the materials, which would be all class 1. We would gain 3 muscle, 2 organs, 2 blood, and 3 bone. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to play that for the materials. So by examining that card that we got from the public square, it's level 1. So those are fresh components. It's going to give us a total of 3 muscle, 2 organs, 2 blood, and 3 bone. So we place the 3 muscle, 2 organs, 2 blood, and the bone has its own category that stays down here. Bones do not degrade, so they can be kept separate, but all of these materials will eventually degrade if we don't use ice to refrigerate them. Each location has a maximum storage capacity. All of these boxes have 15. The bones, we can have 12. And then this is a separate storage area that we can use to store materials for sale. So this card is discarded, and it is not replaced on the board. Only when we get those execution symbols do we place a card at the public square. And now the investigators will move. Now we have 2 investigators on the board, so we'll be making a roll for each. We're going to roll first, and then we can decide which investigator we're going to use that roll for. So it gives us a little bit of control. All right, we're going to make the roll and see what we get. All right, this one has 1 movement. So we can decide which one we want to move. And I think we'll move this one from the docks to the market. All right, now we'll roll for the other one. And that one also has a movement of 1. That's going to move from the morgue to the slaughterhouse. All right, movements are done. And I think we're going to use one of our research cards. We're going to play the card Publish. And it says, during your turn, lose 1 scientist from your character card for this round to gain this benefit. So we have to use the scientists to pay for that. But it's going to allow us to get 2 expertise, 3 reputation, and a frank. Now we also have the special ability on Anita Bassini's card. And her card says research cards that earn expertise will earn 1 extra expertise when played. So that's going to give us a total now of 3 expertise, 3 reputation, and a frank. So that's great. So we'll get a frank. We'll move our dials. 3 expertise will move us up to 7. And 3 reputation will move us up to 10. We've already earned now 5 victory points from that. So that's good. We don't record those on our victory point total at this point. But when we go through our scoring at the end of the game, we will start adding in those victory points, which will be very nice. All right, we've just lost the use of that scientist for the current round, but that wasn't an actual play of the scientist. So we still now will play a meeple before the investigators move. Well, as we have a reputation value of 10, I'm going to place one of our assistants at the hospital. Since we have a level of between 7 and 14, it allows us to draw 1 card. So we're going to take the top cadaver, and we'll see what we're going to do with that. And the cadaver is going to give us level 1 components, which are nice and fresh. We're going to gain 2 muscle, 3 organs, 1 blood, and 3 bone. Now we have to check to make sure we're not over our limit. Now each area is able to house 15 pieces of material. So we've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we've still got a little bit of space left in there, which is good. And the cadaver is discarded, and we will not be replacing that. It will only happen at the end of the round. And now it's time to move our investigators. All right, one of them is going to remain where they are. And I think we'll keep the one at the slaughterhouse where it is. So I'll just tip it so that I know that I've dealt with it already. And now we'll roll for this second one. That one is also going to remain where it is, so we'll tip that one. All right, so they have not moved, and we have 1 meeple left to place. And I think we're going to need some more materials, so I'm going to sneak into the cemetery at night. So we'll place a meeple there, and that's going to entitle us to draw 3 cards from the cemetery deck. And then we can decide if we want which of those, if any, that we wish to use. And those cards are going to be revealed to be all right, those are the 3. Now you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, some of the cards may have a cost involved in them. In this case, this middle cadaver is going to have a cost in humanity. So we can decide now if we choose to want to keep that one or not. The other 2 won't have any cost. Now I'm going to bring up that Start a Monster part card, and that helps us in determining the different costs that we're going to need. Not only our minimum required expertise, but the materials needed and the amount of victory points that we're going to gain based upon the decomposition of the parts. And I think what we'll do is we're going to keep the 2 corpses. Those are going to be level 4 components. So the first of our rifled graves is going to give us 2 muscle, 2 organ, and 2 bone. Those are going to be level 4. So they're highly decomposed. And the second one is going to give us 3 organs and 3 bone. And these are also level 4. So we'll count up our bone, make sure we don't have more than 12. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, we've got maximum amount of bone. And those corpses, including the one we didn't use, are simply placed at the bottom of the cemetery deck. And now we'll make our investigator moves. First one is no movement. So we'll, I think, leave the one at the, well, he's left there, so we'll just stand him up so we know that we have dealt with him. And now our second roll. That one is going to move 1 space. So we will move him 1 space, and he's going to move into the academy. All right, that is the end of the city phase. Now we're going to go and move on to our lab phase. Now in this phase we can build as many parts as we have the minimum required expertise and materials to construct. Now our expertise is at level 7, so we're able to build everything except a head at this point. And I think we're going to start by building a torso. So we place our torso on the diagram. That's going to be the non-flesh side. There's 2 sides to these. One is with flesh and one is without. So we started out with the side without flesh. And checking our start a monster part for torso, we need level 7 expertise, which we have. It's going to cost us a total of 4 muscle, 4 organs, and 5 bone. So we'll take 4 muscle, 4 organs, and 5 bone. And these are all from level 1 parts. So checking on our victory point column, level 1 for that torso is worth 7 victory points. These materials will be returned to the supply, and we'll add up our victory points. And in addition, I think before we add up our victory points, I'm going to build an arm. So we'll place an arm on the display, and that's going to end up costing us a total of 3 muscle, 2 organs, and 3 bone. Now we used materials that were both class 1 and class 4. We have to score it as the lowest category, the most deteriorated level. So that's going to offer us a total of 2 victory points. So we've earned a total of 9 victory points. So we raise up our victory points, 7 points for our level 1 torso and 2 points for our level 4 arm. Now the next step in the lab phase is to throw the switch, and that's an attempt at animating the body parts that we have. Now we can't do that until we have charged Leyden jars, and we need the parts to be completed with skin. So we can't do that quite at this point. But what we do gain is we earn 1 expertise for each monster part that we started. So we're going to gain a total of 2 expertise, 1 for the arm and 1 for the torso. So we'll raise our expertise up from 7 up to 9. And the last step of the lab phase is to preserve materials. And that allows us to move any number of organs and muscle materials from the spaces on the decomposition track to our preservation space. We can hold a total of 9 there. So we'll move these 4 from the level 4 area into the preservation area. Those would have been lost anyway, so we might as well preserve them. Now we'll move on to our reset phase, and we begin with decomposing materials. So this blood material is going to move from level 1 down to level 2. Now if we were to purchase some ice, that would have prevented that decomposition. And now we're going to refresh our board, and our meeples will return back to the lab. So the board has been refreshed, characters are back on their lab spaces, and now all we have left is to move the captain. And the captain moves now to step 4 of the story track. So we're ready for our next event phase. And the next event is de Breton Grant. The late Dame Clemence de Breton has allotted a sizable portion of her fortune to scientific study. Researchers notable or notorious vie for some piece of this inheritance. When researching or lecturing at the Academy, gain normal benefits plus 2 francs. All right, now it also says that we're going to have an execution. So with a 2-player game, which is what we're set up for, we're going to put 1 card at the public square. And since this event deals with the Academy, we'll place the card near the Academy as a reminder. And I think for our first action in the city phase, we're going to place one of our assistants at the morgue. That's going to allow us to draw 2 cards. And out of the 2 cadavers, we have the choice of either gaining an expertise or the materials provided. And I think what we'll do is I'm going to use this card to gain the expertise. So we'll move our expertise up 1 to 10. That will allow us to work on a head. And the other cadaver we're going to use for the components. And that's going to provide us with level 2 components. We'll have 2 muscle, 3 organs, 1 blood, and a bone. And those cards are put to the bottom of the morgue pile. And now we'll take care of the investigator movement. All right, one of the investigators is going to move 2 spaces. And I think we will move the one that is at the Academy. We'll move him 2 spaces, 1 and 2. We'll tip it to let us know that we dealt with it. Now the second roll. That's going to be moving 1 space. That'll move from the market to Saint Roche. I think for our next action, we're going to send one of our assistants to the hospital. And we currently have a reputation level of 10, so that will allow us to draw the top card. And we'll gain that cadaver. And that's going to provide us with level 2 components. We're going to gain 2 muscle, 4 organs, 2 blood, and 2 bone. And we'll check our count now on our level 2 components. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we have to get rid of 2 components, and I think we'll get rid of the 2 organs. All right. And now we'll move our investigators. All right, one of them is going to move 1 space. And I think we'll move this one at the university, the Academy, and he'll move into the donate area. We'll roll for the second one. He's going to move 2. So we'll have him move 2 spaces, and he's going to move into the public square. 1 and 2. All right. And I think we're going to attempt to take advantage of the de Breton grant. So we're going to place our scientist meeple in advanced research. It's going to allow us to gain an expertise, and we can take one of the cards, plus we're also going to gain 2 francs. And I think we're going to gain the blood transfusion card. So we'll take the blood transfusion card that says when giving blood in your lab, do not gain the normal benefit, instead gain this benefit. It also gives us a chance of re-rolling 1 or more gray dice. And we'll replace the Academy card with Fresh as a Daisy. So we're going to gain an expertise that puts us up to 11, which is going to give us 10 victory points, and then we're also going to earn 2 francs. And now we'll take care of our investigator movement. One of them is going to move 1 space, and I think we will move this one from the public square to the cemetery. And here's the next roll. Oh, this one's going to be moving 3 spaces. So that one will move from the grant area 1, 2, and 3 to the market. And for our last meeple, I think we'll take advantage of the public square. So we're going to pay a franc, and we're going to gain that cadaver. So that cadaver is going to give us some level 1 components. We're going to gain 2 muscle, 3 organs, 2 blood, and 3 bone. All right. And the investigators will move. Well, we have 1 investigator moving 2 spaces. And no matter which one we move, if we move this one, 1, 2, it bypasses that, goes on to the next one. If we move this one, it's going to go to, either one is going to go to public square. So I think we will move this one to the public square. We have plenty of money, so I think what we'll do is we're going to bribe that investigator by placing a franc in the bribe area. Okay, now we'll make our next movement. And this one has no movement, so the one at the market will remain where it is. And now we're going to go to our lab phase. We're going to start constructing our creature. And we have enough expertise to begin the head. So we're going to pay 2 muscle, 3 organs, and 3 bone. We have just enough to use that from our level 1 components. 2 muscle, 3 organs, and 3 bone. That will allow us to construct the head. So we're going to add a head on to our creature. And then those supplies will go back into the supplies. And that's going to award us 8 victory points, and we'll be able to increase our expertise. Whenever we build a body part, we get 1 point of expertise. All right. That's going to award us a total of 8 victory points. That'll give us 17 victory points, which is awesome. And I think we'll continue on. I think we're going to continue with a leg. Leg is going to cost us a total of 4 muscle, 2 organs, and 4 bone. Those came from level 2, so a level 2 leg is going to get us 5 victory points. We're also going to earn another expertise, up to 13. So we're going to place a leg on our creation. And our body is starting to take shape. And a leg with Level 2 components will award us 5 victory points. That's going to move us up to 22. Now we do have the chance of preserving some materials. Now the blood cannot be preserved. It has to be either muscle tissue or organs. So I think we'll add these 3 organs into our preservation area. And the next step now is we'll move on to our reset phase, and we're going to start decomposing material. So unfortunately, all of this blood that we collected would normally move down, but it says here to discard blood. We can't preserve that any lower than level 2. Level 1 blood is going to move down to level 2. And now we're going to refresh our board. Our meeples will return back to our player card, and we'll redistribute the cards on the board. And the board is refreshed, and we have just one task left to do, and that's to move the good captain. Captain advances to turn 5 on the story track. And we're ready to begin another event phase. The event is Thief in the Night. A dozen cadavers go missing at the hospital in what police are calling a brash act of burglary. Authorities begin rounding up suspects. Discard all cadavers at the hospital. For the rest of this round, discard and replace any hospital thieves at the docks. All right, now you'll notice there's a new symbol here at the bottom of the card, and that's Lightning Storm. It says all players charge their Leyden jars. Flip to charge side. Upon purchasing a Leyden jar this round, immediately charge it. Okay. So our Leyden jars can be charged. We have 3 of them. So those Leyden jars are now charged and ready to be used. So the cadavers at the hospital are going to be discarded. We're also instructed to discard any hospital thieves at the docks. Well, we don't have any. There's 2 body snatchers and a bone man. So we'll begin our city phase. I think we're going to continue to work on our creature. We need a leg and an arm yet. So I think what we'll do is we're going to use one of our assistants, and they're going to go to the morgue, and we are going to pay Frank. We'll be able to draw 2 of those morgue cards. And both of those morgue cards are going to be level 2 components. And between the both of them, it's going to each cost us, though, 1 humanity. So we're going to have to move our humanity down 2. And that puts us at -2, and we're at -5 victory points. But we're going to address that humanity in the future. This is going to give us a combined total of 6 muscle, 6 organs, 3 blood, and 5 bone. We're going to be over a limit for level 2 components, so I'm going to get rid of 3 blood. We're not going to need the blood until we start actually completing the monster. And now we'll make our investigator rolls. Okay, one of them is going to move 2 spaces, so I think we'll select the one that's at the market, and he's going to move 1 into St. Roche and then 2 into the cemetery. Next one has 1 movement point, and he's going to move to the hospital. All right. And I think for our next action, we're going to use one of our assistants, and they're going to go to the docks, and that will allow us to draw 1 of those scoundrels. And I think what we'll do is we're going to use this body snatcher, and we're going to pay him 1 franc, and he's going to gain us some level 3 parts. And we'll replace the scoundrel. Becomes a cutthroat. And that body snatcher is going to give us some level 3 components. We're going to gain 4 muscle, 3 organs, and 4 bone. And we've added the components to our laboratory. Now the investigator movement. First one has a movement of 1. So I guess we'll move this one. You would move one, skipping over that to the workplace at the hospital. Here's the second one. That one does not move at all. There's no movement there. So both of those have cycled. We'll go on to our next city placement. And I think we're going to use our scientist Meeple, and we're going to place him at the advanced research area at the academy. And he's going to provide us with one increase to our expertise, and we can draw a card. And we're going to take this advanced dissection research. When resolving a stage 1 or 2 cadaver, pay costs, if any, and discard this card. Do not gain the normal benefit. That would give us a total of 4 expertise. We can also use that to re-roll any 1 or more gray dice. And we'll replace that research card. It comes out to be Midnight Oil. And that provided us with 1 expertise. So we move that up to 14. And now that's going to allow us to substitute a blue die for one of the gray dice. And that's very helpful because those have a lot less chances of causing us problems. The blue dice are much better. And now it is time for the investigators to move, and I'm pretty sure we're probably going to have a problem here. First one is going to move 2 spaces, so we'll select this one. He'll move 1, 2. Okay, here is the second roll. And that one is going to move 1. So he would normally move on to that space. He can't, so he'll proceed on to the morgue, and now we have a problem. And I think we're going to bribe him, so it's going to cost us a total of 2 francs. We'll place those down, and that will take care of that investigator for the moment. Now this track is filled up, so what we do is we place 1 franc above the track and clear out the remainder, and now we're going to be adding a cost of 1 franc every time we use that bribe track. And I think for our last meeple placement, we're going to visit the market. And I think we're going to sell some materials. Now we can sell 2 bone to gain 1 franc, and we can also sell a combination of 3 muscle or organs for 2. So I'm going to sell 4 bone and 9 organs, and that's going to give us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 francs. So we've earned 8 francs, and I think I'm going to take the opportunity to spend 1 franc, and we're going to buy a block of ice that will help to preserve any of the components that we have for the future. And we'll put that block of ice in place, and then that's going to refrigerate that area so none of the components are going to degrade. We still have 1 organ left in our preserved materials area. And now we're going to move our investigators. First one is not going to move at all, so we're going to leave this one where he is, and we'll roll again. That time we rolled 2 movement, so he's going to move a total of 2 spaces. 1 can't go through there, it's already occupied, so 1 and 2, and he's going to meet up with us. And I think we're going to bribe him, so the cost will be 1 plus 1 is 2 francs. And now we'll move to our lab phase, and I'm going to begin by building a leg. So we'll place a leg in position on our table. And that's going to cost us 4 muscle. So we'll take that out of level 2 units. 3 organs. And a total of, it's going to cost us 4 muscle, 2 organs, and 4 bone. All right. And that's going to be using level 2 materials. That'll be worth 5 victory points. And I think we're also going to build our other arm. It's going to be a complete creature right now, minus the skin. And we'll have to pay a cost of 3 muscle. So we'll use up, I guess, these 3 muscle here. It's going to cost us 2 organs and 3 bone. All right. Now that's going to be using level 3 components. That'll be worth it. The arm will be worth 2 victory points. So our victory points will go up 5 points for the leg and an additional 2 points for our level 3 arm, up to 29. All right. So our creature is starting to take shape. We need to get some skin on it, and then we'll be able to eventually throw the switch and try to animate the creature. Our last step in the lab is to preserve materials. Well, I'm not going to do that. We have the block of ice, so that's going to prevent those from degrading. And we're going to go to our reset phase, and we're going to decompose materials. So rather than do that, we're going to spend our ice block. That gets diminished, and that will prevent us from having to move those components. So our meeples will return back to our player card and we'll refresh the board. And I almost forgot, we built 2 additional portions of our creature, so we're going to gain an expertise for each of those. That'll move us up to 16 expertise. Our board is now refreshed, and we'll move the captain marker 1 space on the story track. It's going to move the captain to space 6, and that is going to place another investigator on the board. This will be the 3rd. Normally he would be placed on the morgue, but this is as though there was a investigator there already. It skips that, moves on to the next space, and it will start at the slaughterhouse. So we're going to have to deal with 3 investigators now. And we'll begin with another event phase. And that reads, Scrutiny. You are aware of a malign presence that watches you as you wander the streets. Though you are assured it's your patron, spies of the industrious captain, or worse, Parisian authorities. Sneaking around makes travel more difficult. Bumping your own meeples costs 1 franc. Bumping bribes are paid to the supply instead of the bumped player. Well, that really won't have much effect on us. We can't bump. But I guess bribes paid to the supply. Either way, yeah, it wouldn't matter. So that card really has no effect on us. And I think we're going to begin by placing one of our assistants in the give blood portion of our laboratory. And at the same time, I'm going to play the card Blood Transfusion. When giving blood in your lab, do not gain normal benefit. Instead, gain this benefit. So we're going to gain 3 to our expertise, 1 to our reputation, and we're going to gain a franc. So we'll add a franc to our total, and then we're going to gain 3 to our expertise. That'll move us up to 19. And then also 1 extra to our reputation. That'll move us up to 11. That's going to allow us now to change over one of our assistants into a full-blown scientist. So we'll do that. All right. And even though we placed our meeple in our lab, the investigators are still going to move. And that's kind of a good tactic if you don't want to have too many of your meeples out on the board and risk them getting investigated. You can do some lab actions, and that kind of keeps them off the board a bit. So we'll make the first roll. And that one will move a total of 2. So I guess we will move this one 2 spaces, 1, 2. We'll turn him to note that we've moved him. Here's the second roll. It's also going to move 2. So he'll move 1 and 2 to the dark alley. And the last roll is no movement. So that one will remain at the morgue. All right. And I think for our next action, we're going to use one of our scientists, and he's going to volunteer at the hospital. So by volunteering at the hospital, we're going to gain 1 point to our humanity and 2 to our reputation. So we'll increase 1 point in humanity and 2 points in reputation, moving us up to 13 and getting us 10 victory points. That's great. Now we'll move our investigators. And one of them will move 1 space. And I think we will move that one from the dark alley to the docks. Here's our next one. That'll move 1. And I think we'll move that from the lecture area to the donate area. And one last roll. That one will move 2 spaces. And we'll move from the morgue 1, 2 to advanced research. All right. I think for our next action, we're going to use one of our assistants, and he's going to go to the hospital. And we currently have a reputation value of 13, so that still only allows us the 1 card. So we'll take this cadaver and see what we want to do with that. Now the cadaver is going to give us some level 1 components. So we're going to gain a total of 3 muscle, 2 organs, 1 blood, and 3 bone. All right. And once again, Captain Walton's investigators will move. One of them will move 2 spaces, and I think we'll move the one from the docks to San Roche. Here's the second one. We'll tilt him to know that we've moved him. Nothing. One of them will not move, and I guess we'll say it'll be this one. And the last roll. It's going to move 1 space, so that'll move from advanced research to research. Okay. We have 1 scientist meeple remaining. It gets kind of hard now because we have to keep in mind about the movement of those investigators, and when they're scattered like this, it makes placement very difficult. And I guess what we'll do is we're going to use our scientist to do some work at the hospital. Now, our payment is based upon our expertise. We have an expertise of 19, so 13 plus is going to earn us 4 francs. And that's going to give us a total of 10 francs. And we'll make our investigator rolls. All right, one of them is going to move 3 spaces. And I think we will use this one to move 3. 1, 2, and 3. All right, it moves to the docks. Make another roll. One of them will move 2 spaces. And I guess we'll move the one that is in the donation area. 1, 2. And finally our last roll. It's going to move 2. Move 1 and 2 to the public square. All right. And that's going to complete our city phase. We'll move on to our lab phase. And I think we are going to start completing our monster. I think we'll start working on the arms. We need a minimum level 7 of expertise. So it's going to cost us 3 muscle, 2 organs, and 3 blood. So, well, we don't have much of an option here. My components are kind of scattered a bit. So we'll take 3 muscle, 2 organs, and 3 blood. This will be a level 2 components for the arm, which will equal 3 victory points. And that's going to allow us to flip over the arm and it's got some skin on it now. And that arm would be eligible now to throw the switch and try to animate it. And that would be our next step, is to throw the switch. But I think we're going to wait. I'd like to wait until our expertise can get up to 20 or greater, and that would allow us then to substitute in 2 blue dice for 2 of the gray dice that we would be rolling to try to animate this creature, and it's a lot safer when we have that ability. Now we have the option to preserve materials. Well, we still have ice, so I'm not going to do that. So we're going to go into our reset phase. First step would be to decompose materials. Well, we're going to use our half block of ice, and that will keep everything status quo. Now our meeples will return to the card, and we're going to refresh the board. The board is refreshed, and we're going to move the captain. Captain moves to turn 7, and we're ready for another event draw. And this time the card reads, Peasant Protest. Fear and superstition cause locals to congregate outside your laboratories, driven by rumors of the strange occurrences inside. Each player can only place 1 scientist meeple in Paris. Each player may pay 2 francs at any time to remove their restriction. Well, I think we will do that. That's worth 2 francs. So I'm going to pay the 2 francs, and then we can get rid of that card. I think that's the best way to handle that. And we're ready to begin our next city phase. And I think I'm going to attempt to try to get some research cards. So we're going to place our scientist meeple at advanced research. And that's going to get us 1 in our expertise, and then we can have take either of the 2 cards. We have Fresh as a Daisy and Steady Hands, and I'm basically now looking at these reroll options that are available. We're going to need those once we throw the switch. That's one of the most dangerous parts of the game, and either one of those will work. So I think we will take the Steady Hands. That's our second card, and we'll replace that with a new Academy card, new Research card, which becomes Tutor. And next is our Investigator movements. That's a cocked die. We'll re-roll that one. That has no movement. So I think what we'll do is we'll move the one at the docks 1 space. Actually, no, there'd be no movement, that's right. Well, we'll leave the one at the market where it is. Okay, and then we'll make another roll. And one of them will move 2 spaces. And I think we'll move the one at the public square 2 spaces. 1 and 2. And now our last movement. 1 movement. That'll move from the docks to Saint Roche. And we'll tip that model to know that we've moved all 3. All right. Well, we're going to need some materials, so I think we are going to use one of our assistants to move to the morgue. It's going to allow us to draw 2 cards from the morgue at a cost of 1 franc. And those are the 2 cadavers that we have, and I think we're going to keep both of them. It's going to cost us 1 humanity, so we'll move our humanity down to -2. But we're going to gain all of those materials, and those are a combination of level 2 and level 3 materials. So we've gained those materials, and we'll place those cadavers in the discard. And now we'll make our investigator moves. All right, one of them is going to move 1 space, and I think we will move this one to the volunteer space. Here's the next roll. Nothing. And I guess we'll move the Atonement, one that's on Saint Roche. We'll have that stay where it is. And here's the next one. That one's going to move a total of 2. And so that will move 1 and 2 to the public square. Well, I wouldn't mind working on our humanity a bit, so I think we are going to place our assistant at the docks. And for a total of 1 franc, we're going to hire the dog catcher. Now, one of the abilities there is to raise our humanity up by 3. So evidently what we do is we have purchased some dogs from the dog catcher and we let them go. It's going to raise our humanity up 3, so we'll be at +1 now. All right, and we'll make our rolls. All right, one of them is going to move 1 space, and I think we will have this one move to the cemetery. Okay, our next roll, we'll have 1 movement, and I think we'll have this one move from the public square to the hospital. Now our last move. That has no movement, so we'll leave that one there at the volunteering portion of the hospital. That's great. And I think for our last placement, we're going to place our scientist on the give blood area, and that's going to give us 3 portions of level 1 blood. All right. And now we'll make our investigator rolls. I think we might be in trouble. We'll see. Well, somebody's going to move 3, and that's probably going to do us in. We're going to have some type of encounter no matter what we do. I think we will move this one 1 space, and that's going to encounter us at the morgue. And I think what I will do is I'm going to pay 2 francs, and we are going to bribe him. So we'll pay 2 francs, and that will leave us with a total of 4 francs remaining. Okay, here's our next roll. That one's going to move 1 space, and I think we'll move this one to the work area, and finally we have 1 roll left. It's going to move 2, so he'll move 1 and 2 to the hospital. All right, so we kind of were able to deal with that a little bit. I can use that evade ability, but see, we're risking the captain moving up the track, so I don't really want to do that unless we have no other choice. And now we're going to move to our lab phase. And we're going to work now on completing portions of our monster. And I think we'll begin with an arm. So we're going to need to have 3 muscle. So we'll take 3 muscle, 2 organs, and we need a total of 3 blood. And we'll take that from 1 there, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's going to be a level 2 arm, which is going to earn us 3 victory points. So we'll flip our next arm over. And we'll put these materials back into the supply. All right, now that's going to award us a total of 3 victory points for the level 2 finished arm. That'll move us up to 32. And I think we have enough components. No, we don't. I was hoping to do a leg, but we don't have enough. I don't have enough blood. Well, that's all we're going to be able to do. Now that is going to, as we completed 1 element of our monster, we're going to gain 1 extra point on our expertise. And I think I didn't take credit for expertise for that completed other arm, but I don't remember if that's true or not, so we'll just leave it at 20 for right now. Our next step now is to throw the switch, and I think we are going to do that. I'm going to make an attempt at it. Now we have the ability now with our expertise, we can transfer 2 gray dice into 2 blue dice. For every Leyden jar that we throw, we roll 2 dice. That's a minimum. So I think we're going to do that. I'm going to use 1 Leyden jar, and we're going to be able to roll 2 blue dice to see what happens. We're trying to animate our creature. All right, this is a bit of a risk, but here is the roll. And we've rolled 1 success. That is an alive result, and it says for each alive result, place 1 alive marker on a complete skin side monster part that doesn't already have one. You will earn endgame alive points if this part stays alive until the end of the game. That's great. So I'm going to place an alive marker on, I think, the arm. That arm right there. That's great. That's going to complete our throwing the switch portion. Now we can preserve materials. And I think at this point I'm not going to preserve any. We're going to try to complete skinning this creature as quickly as we can. It's going to be less victory points, but the main function of this is completing the monster before turn 13. So we'll move on now to the reset phase, and we're going to decompose materials. So these are all going to slide down. We have no ice available. All right. So our meeples will return back to the card, and then we're going to refresh the board. And our board is now refreshed, and we'll move on to moving the good captain. Captain is going to move now to turn 8. All right. So far we've managed to accumulate 32 victory points. In addition, we have a complete creature with at least 2 arms that are finished. We still have to work on the head, torso, and the legs. So we've got quite a bit of work to do yet. Our humanity level is at 1, reputation is at 13, and our expertise is at 20. We're ready to start our next round, and this will be the event phase. It's entitled Deal with the Devil. A letter from your patron arrives that reads, "Those who would be pleased by relief need only attach this note to their door, and I will send round a new assistant, a soul who has displeased me significantly to remorse all parts of them that cannot aid in your work." Players may immediately choose once to receive a loss of humanity to gain 1 extra assistant for this round. Well, I suppose we'll do that. So we're going to drop our humanity down from 1 to 0, and we'll gain an extra assistant that we can use during this turn. Well, we still have a head, torso, and 2 legs that we need to complete. So we're going to need quite a bit of materials, and I think I will begin by sending an assistant to the cemetery. And that'll allow us to draw the top 3 cards. All right, those are the top 3 cards. 2 of them are only going to give us bone. And this one here will give us some muscle, organs, and bone. So I guess, well, I guess we'll just take this one. These 2 aren't really going to help us much because we don't need bone to complete the monster. So we're going to gain a total of 2 muscle, 1 organ, and 3 bone. Those are level 4 components. All right, now the investigator movement will happen. We're going to be gaining another investigator on the board next turn, so it's going to get even harder. Here's the first roll. One of them is going to move a total of 3 spaces. So I think we will move this one 1, 2, and 3. Okay, here's our next roll. That one's going to move 2. One of those will move 2 spaces. It'll be 1 and 2. And the last roll. That'll move also 2 spaces. So we'll go 1 and 2 to the lecture hall. All right. And I think we're going to use one of our assistants, and he's going to go to the hospital. We have currently a reputation of 13, so that's going to allow us the top card. And this is going to get us some level 1 components. We've got 2 muscle, 3 organ, 1 blood, and 3 bone. All right, we're maxed out on our bone, but we can add the other components to the level 1 area. So we'll place those in level 1. And that cadaver will go to the bottom of the pile. And now investigator movement. Now one of them is going to remain where they are. So I think we'll leave the one at the lecture room. Another one is going to remain where it is. We'll leave that one there at the advanced research area, and then the last roll. That one is going to move a total of 2 spaces. So that's going to move 1 to the research and 2 to the donate area. Okay. And I want to make sure that we get enough components, so I think we're going to move our assistant to the slaughterhouse. Now these are animal parts, and then we're going to have a definite loss on victory points by using those, but it will help us to complete our creature. So we can either gain 4 level 2 animal parts or 3 level 1. And I think we're going to take the 4 level 2. I want to make sure we have a maximum amount of components here. So we're going to add 4 animal parts to our level 2 storage area. And we'll place those in the level 2 area. And those components, the animal components, can be used for any purpose. And now investigator movement. One of them will remain where they are. I'll keep that one, I guess, here in the donate area. Next one has 1 movement. We'll take the advanced research and move it to research. And now the last one. That has no movement, so that is going to remain at the lecture hall. All right. And I think we're going to use one of our scientists at the hospital, and he is going to volunteer. It's going to give us a gain to humanity and 2-point gain to reputation. Humanity will go up to +1, and reputation will go to 15. And now it's investigator movement. All right, one of the investigators will move 2 points, and I think we'll move this one, 1, 2, to the docks. Okay, here's the next roll. One of them will move 1 space, and I think we'll move him 1 to the donate area. And the last roll. And that one will remain where it is. All right. We have 1 scientist remaining, and I'm going to place him in the advanced research area. It's going to allow us to gain an expertise, and we can draw one of those cards. And I think we are going to gain the unethical experiment research card that has a reroll of any 1 or more dice. Any. Okay, that's our 3rd card. We'll replace that with a new card from the Academy. And that one is publish. All right. Our expertise now is at 21, and we'll make the movements for the investigators. All right, one of them is going to move 2 spaces. And I think we'll move this one at the docks, 2 spaces to Saint Roche. Okay, here's the next one. That one will move 1. And I think we'll move the one from the research area to the lecture area. And the last one. That is going to move 1 space. And that's going to go to the dark alley. Okay. That'll complete our city phase. We'll move on to the lab phase, and we'll start building our monster parts. I think we'll start with the head. We have the minimum required expertise, and we'll need a total of 3 muscle, 5 organ, and 3 blood. All right, so we'll take 1, 2, 3 muscle, 5 organs, and 3 blood. 1, 2, and 3. So we had to unfortunately use a level 3 component, and that is only going to give us a total of 7 victory points. All right, so we will turn our head to the completed side, and we're going to gain 7 victory points. That's going to move us up to 39. We'll get rid of those components that we've used and see if there's anything else that we can work on. Well, unfortunately, no, we don't have enough blood. I probably should have had one of our assistants go and give blood. That would have helped us, but we didn't. So that is going to be the extent of building the monster parts. We can throw the switch, and I think I will do that. We're going to use 1 Leyden jar, and that's going to entitle us to roll 2 gray dice, but we have our expertise at 21. We can substitute 2 blue dice for that. So I think that's what we'll do. Okay, here is the roll. And unfortunately, we rolled 1 damage there. Now it says, I think we're going to use this unethical experiment card, which is going to allow us to re-roll 1 or more die. So we're going to re-roll all of those. Okay, here is the roll. And we have 1 alive, which is great. And I think we're going to place that on the head. Okay. Now we can preserve some materials. These are going to be lost, so I guess we will. We can preserve up to 9 of those units, so we'll do that. 3, 6, and 9. Okay, those are in the preserve area. Now we'll move on to the reset phase. We're going to decompose our materials. These are going to be lost. That'll move down 1, and these animal parts will move down 1. Now we can't use those animal parts for blood once they're in levels 3 and 4. Now we're going to refresh our board and return our meeples to the character card. All right, the board is refreshed. We currently have 39 victory points, and all we have left now is to complete the torso and the 2 legs. Captain is going to move 1 space, and that's going to place another one of his investigators on board. We are at turn 9. We'll place that investigator at the morgue. Our next card is Heated Rivalry. You each discover the head of an unfortunate feline nailed to your front door. The vulgar act seems meaningless, but given the nature of your patron, it seems best to take it as a warning. You each redouble your efforts, and any sense of camaraderie you might have had quickly dissipates. Players must pay double francs to bump a meeple from an occupied space. Well, that really won't affect us. We cannot bump in the solo version. Now you'll notice we have a lightning storm. That means we're going to be able to recharge our Leyden jars. So our Leyden jars will be recharged. All right, and we're ready to begin our city phase. And I think I'm going to begin with one of our scientists, and he's going to go to volunteer. It's going to raise our humanity up 1. We're up to 2 now. And we'll also increase our reputation by 2 up to 17. That's going to allow us now to replace one of our assistants with a scientist. And now we're going to have to make 4 movements with the investigators on the board. This is getting dangerous. One of them is going to remain where they are. And I think we will keep the one Insane Roche where it is. Next roll. Be moving one space, and I think we'll move the one from the morgue to the slaughterhouse. Next roll is a movement of one. And I think we'll move the one from the dark alley to the docks. And finally a last roll. That's going to move a total of 3. 1, 2, and 3 to the market. Okay. I think we're going to use one of our scientists. And he is going to go to the hospital. Now we have a reputation value of 17, so that's going to allow us to purchase 2 cards from there for the cost of a franc, and I think we'll do that. We'll pay the franc and gain these 2 cards. And those 2 combined corpses are going to give us a total of 3 muscle, 5 organs, 2 blood, and the 4 bone. Bone is already exhausted. We've filled that up already. So we'll take those components. Those are going to be level 1 and 2 components. All right, so we've added those components to our storage areas. Those 2 cards will be put into the discard. And here's our movements for the investigators. One of them is going to move a total of 4 spaces. That is not good. I think we'll choose the one up here in the slaughterhouse. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to move to the donate area. Okay, next one. Going to move 1, and I think I'll have this one at Saint Roche move to the cemetery. 1 will remain where it is. I think we'll keep that one at the market, and the last one is going to move none, so it will remain at the docks. All right, we've been managing to avoid their investigators pretty good, so we'll see if we can continue to do that. I think for the next action we're going to use our scientist, and he's going to do some advanced research that is going to gain us 1 to our expertise, moving us up to 22, and then we can take any of those cards. And I think what we will do is take the galvanism demonstration, re-roll any 1 or more blue dice. Okay, so we'll keep that. That's our 3rd card. And now they're going to move again. Here's the roll. One of them will remain where they are. And I think we'll make that this one here at the donate area. One of them is going to move 1 space. That was a 1. And we'll have him move to from the cemetery to the public square. This one will move 1, and I think we'll take that one from the market to Saint Roche. And the other one is going to remain where he is at the docks. Okay. We have 1 assistant left, and I think we're going to have him give some blood. And that will give us a total of 3 level 1 blood. All right. And we'll make our investigator rolls. Now, one of them is going to move 2 spaces. So I think we will have this one here move 1 and 2. Okay, here's the next roll. One of them will remain where they are. And I think that'll be this one in the public square. Next roll is a value of 2. And I think we're going to get hit this time, no matter what I do. 1 and 2, or 1, 2. Yeah, I guess we'll move this one here. 1 and 2. And that is going to interrogate us, and we have a total of 2 francs left. I don't have enough to do that because it would cost us 3 francs. So we can either kill that individual, or we can attempt to evade. That reads murder. If your meeple is a scientist, and you have fewer than 2 police markers, you may murder the investigator. If you do, pay the humanity penalty and gain the same rewards and police marker as if you performed the action in the dark alley location. Then place that investigator on the next round of the story track, even if another investigator is already there. The new investigator will be placed back into play at the beginning of the next round. So I think we are going to do that. So we are going to murder him. He's going to go on turn 10 of the track, and we are going to gain a police token. And if we can get 2 of those, we will no longer be able to use that murder option or the dark alley. Now the dark alley is going to cost us a total of 3 humanity, unfortunately. So that is going to move us down from 2 down to -1. But we're going to gain all of the benefits we would have had at the dark alley. And those are 4 muscle, 4 organ, 3 blood, and 2 bone level 1 components. Our level 1 area already has a total of 9 units there, so we're only going to be able to gather another 6. So I'm going to take 2 blood, 1 muscle, and 3 organs. All right. And that's going to complete the city phase. We'll move on to the lab phase. First thing I'm going to do, I think, is construct the completed torso. It's going to cost a total of 5 muscle. So 1, 2, oh no, 3. I should have looked at that more carefully instead of taking those organs. All right, 3, 4, and 5. Got to use animal parts. Okay, then we need 6 organs. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 organs. And then we'll also need 4 blood. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to allow us to complete the torso. Now, unfortunately, we are using level 3 components, and we've also got some of them being animal parts, so we're only going to gather a total of 4 victory points, so that will move us up to 43. But we have completed the torso. So we'll flip that over without damaging our creature too much. All right. So we'll get rid of those components, and then we'll see if there's anything else that we can do. And unfortunately, no, I didn't plan that extremely well. I should have adjusted the number of organs that we took in place of the muscle tissue. All right, that's going to end the creation part of the lab phase. And we can go on and throw the switch if we choose. I think we will. I'm going to use 1 Leyden jar. That's going to entitle us to roll 2 dice. And since our expertise is high, we can substitute those for the blue dice. Now I have some re-rolls that are available as well. So here is throwing of the switch. We have no successes. So I'm going to use this card. Re-roll any 1 or more blue die. Okay, so we'll re-roll those. And we still have no successes. All right, we'll leave it at that. The next step would be preserving materials where our preservation area is full. So we'll move on to reset phase. Our stuff will decompose. And we're going to refresh our board now. We'll return our meeples and refresh the board. Our board is refreshed, and now we're going to move the captain. Captain moves, it'll be turn 10, and that one that we murdered is now going to be replaced with a new investigator, and he will begin at the morgue. All right, we're ready to begin another round. Now Anita has a total of 2 francs, so she, with her special ability, it says at the start of each round, she has 2 francs or less, gain a franc. So we'll give her one of those. And now we're going to move on to our event phase, and this is Academic Charter. The newly opened College de Médecine Nouvelle is in dire need of crude matter for its anatomy classes. The school's necessity has thrown Paris's conventional cadaver market into a frenzy for these materials. Players may immediately choose to move any number of organs or muscles from their decomposition track to their preservation space. When placing at the market this round, gain an extra franc for each sale of materials. We're also going to have an execution, so we'll be placing a card at the public square. We've placed the card at the public square, so it'll be interesting here. So we can, when placing at the market this round, gain an extra franc on each sale of materials. And we can place any number of organs or muscles from their decomposition tracks to the preservation area. So we can temporarily exceed that 9 unit maximum. I don't think we'll be doing that though. Well, we basically have turns 10, 11, and 12 to complete our creature. We have to get 2 legs skinned, and then we have to animate the chest, an arm, and the 2 legs. This is going to be tough. I wouldn't mind going to the market to take advantage of that Academic Charter event card, but as you can see, it's occupied, so we'll have to come up with a different plan. And the investigators are scattered across the board, which is going to make our life very rough. I think what we'll do is we are going to use our assistant, and he's going to go to the lecture room at the academy, and he's going to be able to gain us a franc and 1 point of reputation. That'll move our reputation up to 18. It gets us 15 total victory points, and we'll earn ourselves an extra franc. So we have 4 francs, and now we're going to make our rolls for the investigators. Okay, here we go. One of them is going to move 1 space, and I think we will have the one at the market move to St. Roche. One of them will remain where they are, and I think we'll make that the one at the morgue. Next is also going to remain where it is, and I guess we'll choose the one at the public square. And the last one will remain where it is, and that's the one at the docks. Okay, sometimes we want these things to move and they don't move. All right, I think we're going to get a little bold, and we're going to use one of our 3 scientists to go to the dark alley. Now the dark alley is going to gain us our 2nd police marker. It means we won't be able to use the dark alley, and we won't be able to murder any of the investigators any longer. It also costs us 3 humanity, and that's going to move us down to -4, which is going to cost us 1 reputation, moving us down to 17. All right, but we are going to gain all of these level 1 materials. All right, so we have our 2nd police marker, and we gained all those level 1 materials. That's good. Now we'll make our investigator rolls. All right, 1 is going to move 1 space, and I think we'll have the one from St. Roche move to the cemetery. Another one is going to remain where it is, and I think we'll make that the one at the public square. No, we'll take the one at the morgue. That'll remain where it is. One of them will move 1 space. That'll be the one from the public square to hospital. And now the one at the docks. It's going to move 2. So that'll move to Saint Roche. All right. Now we have 2 scientists ready to place. And I need to worry about my humanity. We're at -9 victory points currently, so I have to find a way to get our humanity up. And to do that in a way that doesn't make us too susceptible to being interrogated. Well, I think we are going to place our scientist at the market, and then we can sell some materials. Now, part of that academic charter card that we have, it states that we can gain an extra franc on each sale of materials. So I think we'll start out by selling our bone. Now we have a total of 12 bone, and that's going to earn us 6 francs for that. 1 franc for every 2. So we'll gain 6 francs for that. I'll just add those to the side here, keep a running total. And we can sell some. Oh, we get an extra franc for that. That's right, for every sale. Okay. All right, then we're going to sell our preserved muscle and organs. And for every 3 of those, we get to earn 2 francs. So that'll be 2, 4, 6, and then an extra one will be another 7 francs. That's going to be great. We can use that in case we do get interrogated. So we'll have another 7 francs here. And we've cleared out our storage area, at least. That's good. And now the investigators will move. One of them will remain where they are. And I think we will make that one, the one at the morgue, I guess. Okay. One will move 2 spaces. I think we'll do this one. 1, 2. Another one will move 2 spaces. 1 and 2. And the last one. It's going to move 1 space, and that'll move from Saint Roche to the cemetery. All right. And I think we'll use our last meeple, the scientist, and he is going to give blood. And we'll gain level 1 blood, 3 levels, or 3 points of it. So we'll place 3 level 1 blood and see, make sure we haven't exceeded our total. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so we're still good. All right, that was our last meeple. We have to move the investigators. All right, one of them is going to remain where they are. And I think we will make that one the one at the morgue. Another one will remain where it is. And I think we'll make that the one at the cemetery. Another one is going to move 2. So he'll move 1 and 2. And finally the last one. He's going to move 1 space. So that's going to move to advanced research. All right, we've dodged another bullet there. That completes the city phase. We'll move to the lab phase, and we're going to start building some monster parts. I think we're definitely going to be doing a leg. And the leg is going to cost us 3 muscle. We'll take it out of our level 1 area. 3 muscle, 3 organs, and 5 blood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we've completed a level 1 leg that's worth a total of 8 victory points. We'll turn over the leg. So we only have the 1 leg left. We'll get rid of these components. There won't be enough to complete anything else, I don't believe. We just have the one leg. I don't have enough blood. So that will finish our build a monster portion. Now we'll move on to throwing the switch, and I think we're going to try both Leyden jars. That'll allow us to roll a total of 4 dice, of which 2 of them can be blue dice. So we'll have a total of 2 blue and 2 gray. We'll see what happens. I have the ability to re-roll some dice. I have 2 cards. Okay, here is the roll. We've rolled 1 animate and 1 damage. And I think we will use a card to re-roll any 1 or more gray dice. So the blue ones were blanks. So we'll re-roll that damage. And that is a nothing. Okay, so we have successfully animated another part of our body. And I think we'll place that on the chest. All right. That'll complete the lab phase, and we'll move on to reset. So we're going to move this stuff. That'll be discarded. These will all slide down. The blood is not useful after it goes into stage 3. All right. So we've got to get a leg, and we've got to animate 3 parts. That's going to be tough. We'll return our meeples and refresh the board. All right, the board is refreshed, and we're going to move Captain. Captain moves to turn 11. So we've got turn 11 and turn 12 to complete our creature. Our next event is Unholy Axe. A priest is found murdered at Saint Roche. His limbs apparently torn off with great force, and his left eye removed. Saint Roche is off limits. All right, we will mark Saint Roche being off limits. All right. And we're ready to begin our city phase. Well, we've got plenty of money, so I think what we're going to do, we're going to go to the docks, and we're going to hire one of those scoundrels. I think what we'll do is we're going to pay 2 francs. We're going to hire this dog catcher. It's going to cost us 1 reduction in humanity, moving us down to -5, but we're going to use it for the gain 5 humanity. So that'll move us up to 0. All right, and that's going to give us back 1 reputation. We're up to 18 again. And then we'll replace that dog catcher with a body snatcher. Okay. And now the investigators will move. One of them will remain where they are, and I think we'll leave the one at the advanced research area. Another one will remain where it is, and that'll be at the slaughterhouse. Another one stays where it is. We'll have that one at the morgue. And finally, the one at the cemetery is going to move 3. All right, he's going to move 3, 1, 2, and 3 to the work area. Well, we need to charge our Leyden jars, and we need to get some components. So I think what we'll do is we're going to place one of our scientists at the cemetery, and we'll see what we can get from there. Cemetery will allow us to draw 3 cadavers. And unfortunately, each of these cadavers is going to cost us some humanity. So we can take one of them. That would move us to -1, and that wouldn't have a victory point impact on us. So I think what we'll do is we'll take this one. It's going to cost us 1 humanity, moving us to -1, and that'll gain us 3 muscle and 4 organs and 3 bone. And these are all level 3 components. All right. And here's the investigator rolls. We got plenty of cash though, so I'm not real concerned. We can bribe these guys. All right, one of them is going to move one space, and I think we'll make that from advanced research to research at the Academy. Another one is going to move 3. And let's see, we'll move him 1, 2, 3 to the lecture hall. Another one is going to move 2. And he'll move 1 and 2. And now the last one is going to move none. It'll stay at the morgue. All right. I need Leyden jars and some blood. Currently we only have 1 blood. I'm going to need 5 to complete that leg. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to place 1 meeple here at the hospital, and for 1 franc, since we have a reputation higher than 15, we have 18, we can get 2 of those. So we're going to take both of these, and it's going to give us a total of 3 blood and some additional organs. So I think we'll do that. So between the 2 of them, we're going to gain a total of 5 muscle, 6 organs, 3 blood, and 5 bone. All right, so we gain a total of 5 bone. And then level 1, we're going to gain 3 muscle, 2 organs, and 1 blood. And then level 2, we're going to gain 2 muscle, 4 organs, and 2 blood. All right. Incidentally, we have managed to get our victory points up to 51, and that's when we can earn those 8 points for that leg. I forgot to announce that on camera, but that's what happened. All right, now we are going to move the investigators. Okay. One is going to move 2. So I'm not too concerned about this. So he'll move 1, 2, and he's going to meet us at the docks, and we're going to pay 3 francs, and we'll bribe him. So we'll pay the 3. We'll add an extra franc to the top, and then these are going to be discarded. All right, here's the next roll. I'll turn him that way. 1 is going to remain where it is, and I think we'll make that the one in the lecture hall. Next one is moving 1, and I think we'll have that one move from the morgue to the slaughterhouse. And the last one is going to move 1, and he's going to move to the donate area. Okay. And we've got 1 meeple left to place, but we have a problem. I have no Leyden jars charged, and I'm going to need 1 more blood than I have to complete the leg. So I think what we'll have to do then is we're going to give blood and allow us to gain 3 level 1 blood, and we'll have to worry about animating these parts during the last turn. So we'll gain 3 level 1 blood, and then we're going to move the investigators. Okay, here's the first one. Move of 2. I guess we'll get this one out of the slaughterhouse to research. 4. Oh boy. Okay, so we'll have this one move 4. 1, 2, past that one, 3. That's going to meet up with us. And we're going to bribe him. That's going to cost us a total of 3 francs. So we'll pay 5 and get 2 back. Leaves us with 9 francs. So we'll place 3 francs there. All right, now we have 2 more to move. One is going to remain where it is. And I forgot which ones we were moving now, darn it. That one had us standing up, so that'll be this one here in the I'm going to have to go back and check to see which ones have moved. Yeah, it's the models that are standing up, so this one will be standing up. All right, we have one more to roll for. And that one's going to stay where it is. So it's at the docks. All right, that is going to complete the city phase, and we'll go on to our lab phase. All right, we need to complete the lake. So that is going to cost us a total of 3 muscle, 3 organs, and a total of 5 blood. So we'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blood. All right, that is going to be a level 2 leg, which is going to earn us 4 victory points. We'll turn that leg to the completed side, and now we have a complete creature. We just need to animate a leg, 2 legs, and an arm. We're going to have to do that in 1 turn, and I think I'm going to try to purchase an extra Leyden jar, and then we'll have to charge those, and we'll just see what we can do. All right, that's going to complete the lab phase. We're not going to be able to throw the switch, so all of our components will degrade. And we'll reset the board. We've managed to increase our victory points to 55, and now we have to reset our board and return our meeples. All right, our board is reset, and now we have to move Captain. Captain is going to move to turn 12, and this will be our final event card. And it's going to be Terror of La Mer. A terrible storm rolls in from the north, bringing with it damaging winds, lashing rains, and crackling bolts of lightning. The cemetery and docks are off limits, but we're able to charge our Leyden jars, which is great. So the Leyden jars can be charged at no cost. That's great. And also, if we purchase a Leyden jar during the round, it is immediately charged, which is great. So the cemetery and the docks are going to be off limits for this round. So what we're going to need to do now is to try to get as many re-rolls as possible, and to be able to maybe get an extra Leyden jar possibly. All right, we're going to be ready for our final city phase. I think we'll begin with advanced research. That's going to gain us 1 point to expertise. That'll move us up to 23, giving us 20 victory points. Then we can draw a card. And I think we will take the unethical experiment card, re-roll any 1 or more dice. So that will be useful for us. That's our second card, and we'll replenish that with Midnight Oil. All right, and here's the movements of the investigators. Okay, one is going to move 1 space. Now, I believe since these are unusable, I don't know if that kicks that guy out or not. There would be we have 1 investigator at the cemetery and 1 at the docks. Maybe when those become unusable, it automatically kicks them out. I'm not sure. Well, there's nothing in the solo rules that indicate that, so I guess we'll just leave it the way it is. So we'll make our rolls. We have 1 that's going to stay where it is, and I guess we'll leave the 1 at the cemetery. 1 is going to move 1 space, and I think we'll have this one move 1 to the lecture hall. Another one is going to move 2 spaces, so I'll have that one move to the market and to Saint Roche, and 1 to go. That's going to stay where it is. And we'll keep that one at the donate area. Okay. We have a total of 9 francs left. So I think what I'm going to do is use my assistant. We'll go to the market, and we're going to purchase some Leyden jar. We'll purchase 1 Leyden jar for 2 francs. And that'll be our 4th Leyden jar, and that's going to come charged because of the lightning storm. So we'll place that charged Leyden jar on our chart. And since we're here, we might as well sell some bone to get some francs. So we have a total of 3, 6, 8. So that'll earn us a total of 4 francs. And now the movements will happen. One is going to move 2 spaces. So I think we'll move this one, 1 and 2. Another one will remain where it is, and I think we'll keep the one at the donate area. Another one will stay where it is. We'll keep the lecture area. And one last one at St. Roche. That one's going to move 1 space. It'll bypass the cemetery and go to the public square. Okay. Well, I think we need to go to the academy and we'll get a research. It'll let us take one of those cards and re-roll any 1 or more blue dice or re-roll any 1 or more gray dice. Well, the grays are probably going to be the ones that would need to be re-rolled, so we'll take this one. That'll be our 3rd card. We'll replenish it. Guest lecture, and now the movements will happen. All right, somebody's going to move 1 space. And I guess we'll move him 1 to the dark alley. Another one is going to move 1. We'll move him to the donate space. Somebody's moving 3. Okay, so that'll be 1, 2, and 3. And the last one up in the public square is moving none. So he'll remain there. Okay. Well, in order to win, we're going to have to animate 3 parts. And I can only use a maximum of 3 Leyden jars, irregardless. So the only thing that we can do is try to get... well, we've exhausted the amount of cards we can get from the academy. I can't gain any more of those. I guess the only thing we could do is try to see if there's a way to increase our victory points if possible. I don't think we'll be able to do that. Humanity track is too far away. We'd have to gain 1, 2, 3 humanity to be able to bump that up to a 5 victory point level. I'll examine the board. Well, there's really not much we can do. So I think what I will do is move to the volunteer area. And that's going to allow us to increase 1 in humanity and 2 in expertise, which would change over an assistant to a scientist. All right, that is all of our meeples. We're going to make our last movement for the investigators. Somebody is moving 3. All right, and let's see here. We're going to get caught. So I guess we'll move this one to there, and we're going to have to pay a bribe of 3 francs. That's what I'll do. 3 francs. Okay, the next one is moving 2. We'll have the one at the public square move 2. 1, 2. Okay. Another one is moving 1. And we'll have the one at the morgue move to the slaughterhouse. And the last one is moving 2. So we bypass those, 1 and 2, going up to the public square. All right, that is the end of the city phase, and we're going to go on to our lab phase. We're either going to win or lose right here. Well, we have nothing to build on the creature. He's completely done. It's just a matter of animating these 3 parts, 2 legs and an arm. We'll have to exhaust all 3 of the available Leyden jars. We can only roll a maximum of, use 1 to 3 Leyden jars at a time. And we'll be able to roll a total of 6 dice, of which 2 of them will be blue dice because of our expertise level. So that's what we'll be rolling. I have some mitigating ability with some cards, so we'll see what happens. We'll make this initial roll. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We have no successes and all kinds of damage. So I guess what we will do is I'm going to spend this card that says reroll any dice that show 1 or 2 damage. So we're going to reroll all of these, any dice. And that one right now is a no-show. Okay, so we're going to re-roll these and see what happens. Okay, we have 1 animation, 1 loss of humanity, and a total of 4 damage. All right, we can re-roll any 1 or more gray dice, so I think we'll do that. And we might as well, I'll keep that one. We'll re-roll these 3. Okay. We have 1 more animation, but we're going to take 4 more damage. And we'll play our last card, and that's re-roll any 1 or more dice. So we're going to definitely be re-rolling those. And the blue one, that was a miss. I need to get 1 more animation. So do I risk rolling that? We need to get a total of 1 more. Oh boy, that's tough. I know I'm going to make the wrong decision. I guess we'll re-roll all 4. Okay, this is it. I have no more cards left, so this is the final roll. And we didn't get it. Oh no. We have a total of 4 damage and no other successes. Oh. So we can animate 2 parts. We'll do an arm and a leg. We have to inflict damage on 4 parts. So we can just spread that around. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And unfortunately, we've lost because I have not been able to animate that last leg. Oh. All right, well, that ends the game, and according to the objective of the solo variant, we have to complete the monster and bring to life before Captain Meeple reaches the last space of the story track. Well, that's not going to happen, so we've lost. Technically, we could add up our victory points, but it's a loss, so I'm not going to bother doing that. We'll go back to the board and I'll give you my thoughts on the game. Well, that was Abomination, Heir of Frankenstein. I'm very impressed with the game. I like the theme, which of course is extremely important to me being a solo gamer. The theme is everything. And this one really captures the theme of being a mad scientist and being coerced to build a creature for a creature. For the most part, the components are excellent. The game board, I love the illustration on it. It certainly looks like Paris in 1819. I like the creature components with the legs, torsos, head, and arms and legs. And I like the different characters that we have. I think they did a good job with giving a good cross-section of different special abilities for each character. The dice are real high quality, and all of I actually have no complaints with the components at all. If I had a wish list, it would be that the character displays were made of a little bit thicker material than what they are. It would have been nice to have that on cardstock, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. The event cards are very interesting, and I think with them being double-sided and being limited to either beginning of the game or end of the game, it's going to offer quite a bit of replayability. And not to mention all of these different decks are shuffled, and you really never know what is going to come up. So there's a lot of replayability, and I'm definitely going to give this a thumbs up. Well, thank you so much for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. It's a long one, but I think it's a good game, and you might want to check it out. The fact that they have an official solo variant for it, and they did a really good job on the solo variant. I enjoy that. It's almost another set of strategy that isn't in the multiplayer version, because you're trying to, avoid these investigators coming at you. And one of the only ways that you can really work against that is to make sure you've got enough money for bribes, and that's hard. Some of these, like right now, these bribes are costing us 4 francs. It would be, so that's very, very expensive, and that saps our resources. But very interesting mechanic, and I think they did a great job on the solo variant. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you again at the Solo Gamers Club. Have a nice evening. Good night.